Tonight on APT Opinion, has North Korea already crossed the point where it's no longer a regional threat, but a global nuclear power we've underestimated for far too long? Tell me what you think in the comments. Because what we're about to walk through is not the North Korea most people imagine. Not the caricature of a starving, isolated country firing occasional test missiles into the sea. No, this is a North Korea that has spent the last decade quietly, methodically, doing something Western intelligence agencies said it simply could not sustain, turning itself into one of the most heavily armed nuclear states on Earth. And the shocking thing is, it has done this while under crushing sanctions, with an economy that struggles to meet basic needs and with almost no formal access to international finance or technology. Yet, its missile program, not just the nuclear warheads but the launch systems, the propulsion, the targeting technology, has exploded in capability. The basic question becomes, how does a country this size pull this off? How does a state with limited industrial capacity sustain a weapons program on par with major global powers? The answer, if you look closely, is almost philosophical. North Korea has one single national obsession, one single organizing principle, one single strategic goal: to build a nuclear missile shield so terrifying, so survivable, so varied, that no opponent, neither South Korea nor Japan nor the United States, can realistically consider a first strike or even a regime change operation. That obsession has pushed Pyongyang into a nuclear category that now sits alongside India and Pakistan. And in some technologies, like maneuverable hypersonic glide vehicles and mobile solid fuel ICBMs, North Korea may have leaped ahead of them entirely. And this is where the story really gets unsettling for the rest of the world. Over the last 2 years, Pyongyang has begun rolling out a new generation of missiles, intercontinental medium-range and short-range systems that look nothing like the crude prototypes analysts expected. These aren't improvised, nor are they experimental. These are polished, mass-produced road mobile systems that resemble, and sometimes almost identically resemble, the systems fielded by far wealthier militaries. And what's more, some of them are already deployed. Let's start with the moment that truly signaled a new era. 11th October 2025. A massive parade in Pyongyang marking the 80th anniversary of the Workers' Party of Korea. The WPK has spent decades promising a future built on juche, self-reliance and technological defiance. And this parade felt like the culmination of that ideology. The star of the parade, the absolute jaw-dropper, was the unveiling of the new Hwasong 20 mobile intercontinental ballistic missile. This thing is enormous, an 80-ton, 3-stage solid fuel monster reminiscent of Russia's Yars system. It's mounted on an 11-axle transporter launcher that doubles as a mobile launch pad. In missile engineering, mobility is survival, mobility is deterrence, and North Korea has learnt that lesson well. The Hwasong 20 also carries MIRVs, multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. This means one missile, one launch, one flight arc, but several nuclear warheads that separate mid-flight and strike different targets. A few weeks before the October parade, North Korea tested a new solid fuel engine, believed to be designed for this missile. And here's the kicker: if the estimated range of 15,000 kilometers is accurate, North Korea now possesses, in theory, the ability to strike any point in the continental United States. The Hwasong 20 hasn't flown yet, but the day that test happens, the global security landscape shifts. Now, the Hwasong 18 is more mature. It's already deployed, and it's a lighter, modernized solid fuel design that closely resembles Russia's Topol-M. Its range, also intercontinental, is thought to be around 12,000 kilometers. This is not a prototype. It's a weapon already integrated into North Korea's strategic forces. It first appeared in 2023 and it has been successfully launched. And then there's the Hwasong 17, the big liquid fuel missile, the one that first shocked analysts back in 2020. This missile, with a range also approaching 15,000 kilometers, is mounted on a heavy multi-axle vehicle that lifts it vertically and prepares it for launch. It's old school, yes, slow, vulnerable compared to solid fuel systems, but it's powerful. And you know what? It shows how North Korea used Soviet designs and re-engineered them for its own purposes. What's important here is the scale. North Korea's ICBM arsenal is no longer a dream or only on paper in a file somewhere in Pyongyang. It exists. The exact number? Hard to say. Open source imagery shows only 6 Hwasong 17 launchers, though production may be ongoing. The solid fuel systems complicate estimates, but informed guesses suggest perhaps a dozen deployed mobile ICBMs, solid and liquid combined. A dozen nuclear-armed missiles that can reach the continental United States is not a symbolic force. It is a strategic force. Now, this is only the first pillar of North Korea's missile shield. The second pillar, the medium-range system, is arguably even more dangerous because this is where Pyongyang has embraced maneuverable hypersonic glide vehicles. Hypersonic glide vehicles are the nightmare of missile defense. They fly at enormous speeds, but unlike traditional ballistic warheads, they maneuver unpredictably, slipping under radar arcs and defeating interception algorithms. Now, on the 2nd of April 2024, North Korea launched the Hwasong 16B, its first hypersonic missile. This was not a stunt. This was a functional launch of a solid fuel missile carrying a hypersonic gliding warhead with a range of 5,000 kilometers. So that means it can strike targets anywhere in Southeast Asia and potentially US bases scattered across the Pacific, Guam included. And then North Korea unveiled the Hwasong 11MA, a twin missile mobile launcher firing 2 hypersonic glide vehicles with a range of around 1,000 kilometers. If North Korea has solved the guidance problem, and that's the only real question, this system could target US aircraft carriers far off the Korean coastline. Carrier strike groups depend on standoff distance. A maneuverable hypersonic missile with a 1,000-kilometer range erodes that distance dramatically. And then there's a fascinating hybrid, the Hwasong 2, originally designed for submarines, then re-engineered for land use. A 1,500-kilometer solid fuel missile that might, I repeat, might carry nuclear warheads. The fact that North Korea can adapt submarine designs for land launch tells you just how modular their missile development has become, right? And speaking of submarines, this is where people underestimate North Korea the most. In 2023, Pyongyang unveiled the Hero Kim Gunok, its first true ballistic missile submarine equipped with vertical launchers for Hwasong 5 missiles. These sea-launched missiles have a range of about 3,000 kilometers, and that instantly puts US bases in Japan and Guam at risk from below the surface. This matters. It matters because a sea-launched ballistic missile gives you survivability, second strike capability. It can hide, it can move. It complicates military planning in ways that only a handful of nations, Russia, China, US, India, have had to deal with so far. And now, North Korea joins that club. Finally, the short-range missiles, the frontline systems, these are no less heavyweight. The KN-25, which looks like a huge multiple rocket launcher, actually fires guided missiles with individual correction systems. In 2024, on the 23rd of April, North Korea used these rockets in a simulated nuclear counter-strike exercise and openly declared that they can carry nuclear warheads. A 400-kilometer nuclear-capable rocket that can saturate targets in South Korea is a devastating battlefield tool. And then there's the Hwasong 11 KN-23, famous online as Iskander 4 because it resembles Russia's 9 M723 missile. Mobile, rail-launched, sea-launched variants, all with a range of 600 kilometers and the ability to carry compact nuclear payloads. This missile alone gives North Korea the ability to hit any target in South Korea with precision. And then the KN-24 and the KN-11D. North Korea's take on ATACMS, but modernized, more range, more accuracy, more missiles per launcher. These systems allow simultaneous strikes against dozens of targets, If all of this sounds like an impossible level of sophistication for a country under sanctions, well, that's the point. Even if North Korea had only 50% of all the missile capability I've just described, that would still be pretty big. And not all of it can be dismissed as propaganda, because think about it. If it was, would South Korea and Japan issue alerts every time North Korea rattled some rockets? The world expected North Korea to stagnate. Instead, it evolved. Yes, in only one direction, but it did evolve, quietly, methodically, and obsessed with that one goal: building a missile force capable of ensuring the regime can never be attacked without catastrophic consequences. Tonight on APT Opinion, that is the uncomfortable truth. North Korea is no longer just a regional nuclear power rattling sabers across the DMZ. It is now an advanced missile state, one whose arsenal spans every range category, uses every major propulsion technology, and increasingly mirrors the systems fielded by far richer nations. And for a long time, the world denied it, dismissed it, because it didn't play into Western narratives of a sanctioned, outcast state that they drew North Korea to be. But here at APT, we believe in stripping away the layers. Subscribe to us. The world is only just beginning to grapple with a strong North Korea.